recorded at Get a Grip Studios in Toronto, Canada, a Get a Grip management production and in association with the Get a Grip on Lighting podcast. Financially supported by the good folks at the National Association of Innovative Lighting Distributors, this is Restoring Darkness podcast.
This episode of Restoring Darkness is brought to you by Evluma. If you're serious about contributing to the reduction of light pollution, go to evluma.com, hover over products, and click on Dark Sky Friendly Lighting. Both the OmniMax and AreaMax lights are International Dark Sky Association certified. The warmer color temperatures of the OmniMax reduce the more easily scattered blue wavelengths, which contribute to glare and sky glow. With AreaMax lights, you get full cutoff, which also means no uplight and a significantly reduced contribution to sky glow. And all of Evluma's outdoor lighting product lines come with dimmable drivers for even more control. If your customer is looking for dark sky-friendly fixtures with energy savings while still meeting the demands of decorative lighting, look no further than Evluma. Evluma, illuminating the pursuit of dark skies.
Welcome back, folks, to the Restoring Darkness podcast. I'm here with my co-host, John Bullock, and we're about to interview Etta Dannemann. Before I tell you about her bio and we start interviewing, I got to tell you about the Restoring Darkness merch. That's right, folks. You got it. Go to restoringdarkness.com. You'll see the little merch button there. You can buy hoodies and hats and t-shirts and all that kind of stuff. I bought a huge load here and my kids took it. My kids stole it from me because it's so cool. That's right. That's why I only have one sweater left here and I'm wearing it for the viewers out there. You can see how cool it is. So go to restoringdarkness.com and click merch. On this show, we have Etta Dannemann. She has been in the lighting industry, for 10 years before founding VISIT Dark Skies GmbH, a company dedicated to the experience of the natural night sky. As a lighting designer, she has been interested in light and darkness, and especially in light-related biological processes like the darkness adaptation of the human eye. With her audio file, I guess it's going to be linked here, people can immerse themselves into a true nature experience. Her approach allows hosts in remote areas and dark sky parks to create additional income in the off-season while offering a new activity to their guests. Guided stargazing, I think that's a great idea. And the art of looking into the night sky. Yeah, there is an art to it, actually. Etta, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
So, I'm looking at GmbH, and for non-European listeners, that's like an LLC. So tell us how this spawned into not a not-for-profit or not a charity, but actually a business that earns income and pays people. Tell us about that.
So yeah, I have been in the dark sky movement since I would say 2015, and I had a lot of contacts to people that were activists for protecting the night sky and are researchers in the field of light pollution and impact of light. So I wondered, what can I contribute as an architect, as a creative, to this movement in a matter. And so after little phases of searching what that could be, I decided to add a little creative approach and put the experience of the night sky in the center of a new venture that actually inspires people to travel to dark sky places and it bridges a little bit the urban community with those rural places. And the business is I did it as a business because I wanted to work with businesses, because I think the astrotourism small business owners and commercial stakeholders are not addressed very well so far by the dark sky movement. There's kind of a lack of fields, or lack of, how do you say that, lack of bridges between fields because the dark sky movement is mostly rooted in astronomy and ecology and maybe environmental protection. So I wanted to bring that more into that commercial field. And because when you work with commercial stakeholders, you can also have an impact by inspiring them to think about the impact light has, and maybe
Well,
to be interested in the
I
field.
th- I think what's just about what you said there. So you're 100% correct in that the dark sky movement is not um is not maybe the association, the International Dark Sky Association, has a mandate much bigger than it knows right now, because there's a lot of people that are not connected to that movement in a meaningful way, that are working in this kind of darkness world. What encourages me about what you're doing is that I really like it when a business provides something, or how to put it, that solves a problem or contributes to solving a problem through revenue generation, rather than always asking for money from, for charity and for donations and this sort of stuff, but is actually carving out its own space based on customers willing to pay for that activity. And to see that customers are willing to pay, to be able to visit and see the stars is so encouraging for the movement and so important that, that people are coming to you with cash in hand,
Mm.
as opposed to you having your hands out and then trying to speak a message. So people are paying for what the dark sky movement wants to deliver. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense. And of course, I also thought about founding it as a charity or as a GmbH, which is kind of a mixture between GmbH. But then I thought about who would I talk to, and if I would have founded it as a charity, I would have been in contact a lot of with money givers. But instead, I wanted to be in the field and work with the field, work with remote regions, and work with users and with hosts in these regions. And that is, I think, easier than if the structure. If the money comes from the hosts, of course, I will talk a lot to them and find out what are their challenges, what are their sorrows, what are their wishes when we work together. And that was the better choice.
Before I turn it over to John, for some of maybe his questions that he wants to start off with, I want to ask one more question. Are there any dark sky places in Europe, south of sort of Sweden and Finland? Are or east or sort of west of Poland? Are there any dark sky places in that area? Maybe that's
Yes.
why John's shaking his head. I knew this was gonna.
Yeah.
Yes, of course, there's so much.
Okay, okay, because Canada basically is
Yes.
a dark sky place. Like
Yeah.
most of Canada is already dark. Like more than half of Ontario has no roads, right? So you can gain access to dark skies fairly quickly. And when I look at the map of Europe, I think, could it be even be possible to have dark skies in that part of the world?
Of course.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, there, of course, Canada and the US have large spaces, but also in Europe, there's so much. There's La Palma in Spain with so many places. There's France, the middle of France. Then in Germany, we have 7 dark sky parks. May start a project with Montenegro soon, which is also incredible dark skies. Austria, of course, the Alps, Switzerland. I mean, you can also Wales. 18% of Wales, I think, are dark
Yeah.
sky places. So Scotland, UK. I don't know. There's so much. Yeah, maybe there's not bottle scale 1 or 2. If you would get into expert talk here. So these really excellent dark sky places where you have nearly no light pollution at all, but you have certainly great places.
Yeah, we've got. I'm almost within walking distance of a dark sky area on the south coast, and it's just a country park. It just used to be called a park, but because it's right on the coast, and because Dorset doesn't have a lot of people in it, I'm on an island with 60 odd million people, and yet we have lots of these little dark pockets. And the nice thing is for us is that this is the size that we are. We're about this wide and we're about this tall, and we can stand in the middle of a field. And even if the field is the only place where you can see the Milky Way, it will do. We don't need half of Ontario to be able to go and see the sky. You don't have to go and stand on Salisbury Plain, although you can, in order to see the Milky Way. You can get small pockets, and that's the way that we've worked it. Etta, the thing that I find fascinating here is that some guy once said many years ago that the things that we want happen. They do, that we do actually get them, but we get them in ways that we would never have imagined. And those of us who've promoted dark skies, or those of us who've promoted responsible light, have always expected it to be people doing good things. And that leads into Michael and his handouts. You give me some money and I'll do something properly. But the problem with that is it's never put value onto that resource. And it seems to me that what you've done here is that you've monetized a good thing. I mean, most of the time, the things that cost money are not good for us. Too much food, too much drink, too much, flying away on holidays, all of that stuff. But the idea that you can make money, which means that really you are giving value to other people, to go and lie down in a field
Yeah.
and look at the sky is amazing. That's not a question.
Yes.
That's just a huge long statement.
Thanks. Yeah, maybe I can tell a little bit more because there's even more concept behind it. It's not only the audio file that I sell to people. Instead, it's a concept for hosts in remote regions to make money with the file. So the audio file is actually mm, creating an event that is easy to handle for hosts, and they can rent out chairs or blankets or even hot water bottles in the off season, or make a picnic. So they can rent accessories and stuff. So if they buy the license from Visit Dark Skies, they can even make so much more money by providing accessories that makes it comfortable for their hosts, because that's really important for guided stargazing. So in the end, it's a win-win-win. People have a nice experience in remote areas. Sometimes there's not so much to do, right? And maybe there's no star guide available. That's the idea. They can do it when the stars actually appear, and hosts have something that they can offer. And then, of course, Visit Dark Skies can develop more audio files with, yeah, when we have more hosts. Of course, we can, yeah, we can create other audio experiences, like, for example, guided cloud gazing or similar things. And yeah, that's a little bit the
What,
concept.
yeah, what's been the response from the what should we say? The dark sky the formal dark sky movement, the people who are the astronomers and the people who are saying that light pollution is such a bad thing and we must stop people from doing this. How have they responded to the idea that you're taking a commercial view of it?
Yeah, good question. Um, I would say most of people that I know uh, like it because they like a new idea, or they like the inspiration. Um, of course, some maybe people that have brought a lot of energy next to their job. Um, in Germany, there's a strong concept of community and
Yeah.
Ehrenamt, called like doing this in your free time. Um, Sometimes they might be, I don't know how to say that, they have a strong ethos of doing that for free. Um, so maybe they are more in the space that things should be for free. But yeah, what should I say?
You know what? You know why that
I'm
is?
getting good. I'm getting quite a good feedback. I'm working with a lot of people from the Dark Sky movement. They support me a lot, and I think we are used. It's a tourism product, and I my argument is that it helps to sensi- sensibilize. Can you say that? Like make people more
Yeah.
sensitive to light uh, issues. For example, um, if I talk to a hotel in Harz area, which I recently did, um, I just come with this, hey, I have this guided stargazing approach, and that might be something for your guests. You're attracting urban visitors. That might be something for you. And then they're like, oh, yes, actually, pretty interesting, but we're doing a lot of lighting to our trees in our garden, and that might be harmful, right? We have a lilac light, lilac lights to our trees every evening, and then I'm like, yeah, maybe that's that's maybe that's not so good for the experience. So maybe you should integrate something where you can just dim the lights in the evening or shut them down completely, and then they're like, oh yeah, I think that we can do that. That's not so hard. And so with this approach, I have created awareness from a tour as a tourism host that usually thinks in a different manner than the dark sky movement, but the result is the same. Lights are shut off, right? Lights are
Yeah.
shut
Yeah. Yeah.
down in the evening. So that's the idea. And a second example, I just talked with a client or potential client in the US, and they asked me, "Okay, wow, your idea is so wonderful. We like it a lot. Um, and do you have experience with barks?" And I'm like, "Yeah, what barks?" They were like, "Yeah, I think this is just part of nature, but people complained." And then I looked at the photo, and they are in the middle of the desert, and they have so white lights on their little accommodation. So barks from all over the place are attracted. And then I gave them some I gave them some advice with black wrap. They can shield the lights with black wrap, and they can also take some foils and make them more orange. And they was like, "Oh yeah, thank you so much for the advice. We will immediately do it. Then we have less bugs. So then we have a better experience for people, for tourists, but we also have a interesting, result that bugs are not not attracted unnecessarily, and that the whole light pollution topic is not so much talked about in this manner of you should not do it. Do you know what I mean? So I think that's
Yeah. Yeah.
for some
I,
people
I
that's the right approach.
yeah. I feel a new career coming on, Michael.
Yeah, I
This
do.
is
Well, yes. Well, I just want to say something. You know why? I'll tell you. You said that sometimes people think that it should be done for free or whatever, like you said, and because it is. I think it's because, people kind of, if you say to them initially that, you should be able to see a beautiful night sky, and this is the experience, and this is how much it costs, or this is how people learn to provide this experience, and they have to pay. People get a little bit offended by that. They don't feel like someone can teach them how to look at the sky or how to make the sky more spectacular or something like that. It's kind of like it's not often talked about as a tourism experience. But John, when you think about it, if somebody comes to Canada or near where I live, and I take them to my cottage. If I see a bright starry night's kind of coming on the horizon, I'll make sure that they go outside and lay on the dock, and that all the cottage lights are off, and so there's no lights so there's from the cottage or whatever, and lay them on the dock. And it's always a great experience. I mean, it's really cool to do that, and then get a pair of binoculars and give it to them and say, hey, look at this, see over there, with a pair of binoculars. Something that's very valuable to people, actually, and they don't know it. They need to be guided to it or taught how to do it. Etta or John, I mean,
Okay. I'll take a piece of this. Yeah, I think a lot of it is about engagement. I think there's a lot of the dark skies thing it's a simple argument to win, but it's a very difficult argument to succeed, because most of us will go, oh, I think a starry sky, fantastic. You can't see anything. When we went on our holiday to that Greek island and we saw the Milky Way and we saw, that was absolutely wonderful. But then you come back home and you get back into your normal life. So we have this disengagement. Here am I live, as you know, I live and work in the countryside. Do I go out at night? Of course I don't. I'm at home watching the television like everybody else around me.
mm-hmm.
So to get me outside, enjoying the sky, it's got to be something that I have to invest in. And doing it this way, I mean, I can think of so many of my friends are farmers, and friends who have campsites, and they're in it. They may not be in a formal dark sky area, but I know what it's like to look at the sky from their fields, and it would absolutely be absolutely gorgeous for them to be able to do that. So what we're finding here now is you're giving us a way. You're giving us a way to engage more people, so that those people can say the dark sky is important. So that when somebody comes to me and says, I'm trying to develop a new holiday park, and I want you to do my exterior lighting design, and the local authorities need me to tell them that we're getting all the lighting right, and the neighbours are all going, well, it's just another thing. We actually want the neighbours to be going, no, 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 no. We want our dark skies, thank you. That's the shift that we want, that level of engagement. I'm sorry, again, I'll leave it with you, Etta. Where are you? After you.
I think, I mean, with guided stargazing, that's an activity. I think it's a new activity because it's not practiced, or it's not exercised, but it's actually very basic. Every one of us knows it, right? It's just lying on the back and looking towards the night sky. But the unique thing is that you do it for so long. You do it really constantly for 30 minutes with that audio file that helps you to immerse yourself and to really watch it constantly. And then what happens after 20 minutes is so fantastic. Once your eyes have adapted to the dark, you see more stars because your eyes, can process more light, can process stars that have not been visible to you before. And then at the same time, your eyes can have a larger field of vision once they are adapted to the darkness. That's the second thing. And the third is that we have a little exercise in the audio file that starts at one star, and then you get broader and broader until you have really a broad field of vision, and that is really something that I'm sure you have never done before, even if you have been in dark skies for a long time. And the feedback from people is really amazing to me, because I've worked so long on that audio file to make it really work well. It was maybe half a year or so, always testing, iterating it, choosing music, working with a composer, with a speaker, etc. And then, it's great if people really say to me, "Oh, I've never seen the sky like this." It's beautiful.
Full disclosure, I've listened to it. Michael. I've been
Okay.
there, and I've sat. Unfortunately, I wasn't outside looking at the sky. I was sitting at my desk, just
Oh.
listening to this thing, and you don't. The stars is just something else. This is just a lovely experience. That the
Okay.
whole story that's unfolded, but there's good stuff in there.
Can
Even to say, when you're doing this, do not look at your phone because it will probably spoil
Sure.
the
Yeah.
exercise.
I got a
Brilliant.
question. I got a question for you, Etta. So it's available in English and German, right? This
Hmm.
experience. And as I was hosting these shows, I've talked to a lot of people about the mystical or sublime elements of dark skies, those deeper areas, right, that people can enter. And oftentimes, when they describe a dark sky or dark restored area deeply, they talk about it in the same way that people seem to talk about psychedelic drugs. I know it sounds weird, but when the people that have told me these
Yes.
stories about going to a dark sky park and having a guided experience, they describe it as almost like taking magic mushrooms or something. I'm not kidding you. It sounds very similar that they were elevated out of themselves, that they felt
Yeah.
connected to the universe. Not that they had any hallucinations, but they just had these sort of transcendental experiences. Is that what your company is trying to deliver to customers?
So,
Sorry.
no, it's fine. So the audio file starts with facts around Big Dipper, and stories. So it really starts, yeah, to entertain people that like to know more about the sky. But then in the second part, it it gets more perception oriented, and in the last part, it really tries to detach you from Earth and to have that zoom out effect. And that is through a personal question, but also through a technique that I explain on the homepage, where you can actually, um, take back your neck a little bit and look towards the sky in another manner, that you lose the horizon in front of you, and instead you see the horizon in back of you, and that is something where you suddenly only see the sky, and that's something that you rarely do, and that creates a sense of detachment. And if you reach that, actually, it's wonderful. And yes, it has some esoteric or psychedelic aspect, and yeah, I fully recommend it. It's
Can, can I, Michael? We've been taught, not necessarily using psychotropic drugs or anything like that. Although whatever floats your boat. But we've been talking about this because the urban condition
Mm.
is sort of seriously out of kilter. We've got an organisation in the UK called Designers Mind, and it's an organisation that is trying to help with the mental health of the design community, who are incredibly stressed out. Where was I the other day? This is a thing called Mentel. Little card there. It's about mental health for men. So lots and lots of people are realizing that we are in trouble. A friend of mine is a forest bather. I think you have those in Germany as well. So
Yeah,
it's
of
a Jap
course.
it's of course you do. It's a Japanese idea that you go swimming in the forest. Except of course you're not swimming in the forest, but you are swimming in the forest. You're a
Yeah,
three-dimensional
it's,
being,
I mean,
and you are meditating in a forest. And all we're doing
there's
here, I
a
say
there's
all
a
we're doing here.
new there's a new way of experiencing nature, a new passion for it, a new longing for experiencing
Yeah.
nature in a deep manner. And I think, Visit Dark Skies fits very well into that movement of urban people looking all night long, or all day long, into a flat, bright little, you know, little
Here we
laptop,
are.
and then and then they, yeah, in their spare time, they want to, have a contrast experience to that, and enjoying complex nature, enjoy it in a new manner.
Yeah, and we're talking a lot about biophilic design here. So if you can't be out amongst the trees, you can try and bring analogs of trees, pictures of trees, plastic trees, anything that looks and reminds you of a tree is better than no tree at all. And similarly, wherever you can make that kind of connection to nature, we are reckoning that it is a much healthier place for us to be.
Mm-hmm.
So fantastic initiative, and on so many levels,
Mm-hmm.
so many levels.
Mm-hmm. I have
Thanks.
a question, and before we get
Mhm.
on, I want to change gears. So I have one more question about the business. Okay,
Mhm.
who is the customer? Who pays you?
So it's the main business idea is that I sell licenses to hosts in remote regions,
Mm-hmm.
and with this, people listen for much less, uh, for yeah, and if they would buy it on the homepage, and that budget is free for the hosts then to rent out accessories or to sell it over on their places.
So you're
There's
basically.
also maybe a second. There's also nature parks. I have some nature parks projects, so that's actually then public money for for nature experience, for tourism
Mm,
experiences. So there was a nature park that created stargazing benches in their park, and of course the audio file fits well to these benches. So there was, so now there's this little plate. I have it here. There's this little plate
mm-hmm.
that is then on the benches, and you can scan it. Whoop,
Ah, I
with
see.
the
Okay.
QR code here. Yeah,
Ah,
so
so
bench
it's if you
for you.
can't charge for something, it has no value by definition. Like by definition. And I'm not telling you exchange. That's my opinion, and I'll tell people the
Okay.
fact that you can charge for it. See, that's where it starts to be. That's where the movement needs to begin. Like really digging its teeth into the world is finding ways for people to know what they're missing. This is what you're missing, actually, and and people can pay for that and go have a wonderful experience. And I think that's fantastic. Rather than just telling them to go outside and look at the sky, or try to drive north in Ontario. Here's people that can actually show you, or here's how you, if you're a resort owner, here's how I can help you make this another part of your
Yeah.
business. Where while they're here, they're also going to have a starry night experience. No brainer. That's a no brainer for you resorts out there listening to this. You should be doing that
Thank you
right
so much.
away. Yeah, that's a no brainer for them. So your customers are going to be happy. Let me ask you,
So
John.
maybe
Yeah,
maybe
go ahead.
just
Go.
to
Yeah.
to add, people can also buy it from the website, of course, and then the price is a little bit like if you would do a start guide tour
Yes.
or so,
Mm.
like a normal activity, or even a little cheaper. So that there's also a B2C approach. Okay.
I
So
think it's no different than offering an ocean and a beach. It's something. There's a reason for going there, and one of the reasons is to see the stars at night. So I think it's an amazing business idea. I want to ask you a little bit about your time in the lighting industry. Um, how did the lighting industry was it did it guide you here, or did you come at it from the side and your experience in the lighting industry helped you with your business? How does the lighting industry fit into your decision to become an entrepreneur in this area?
So I started as a lighting designer, and I really enjoyed the job. I'm interested in creating atmospheres and think about how people experience a space. And I worked in, I did that for indoor and outdoor spaces. Um, and then I had this experience in the US in 2014, 2015, and I think that impacted so much what Visit Dark Skies is today. On the one hand, I was deeply more involved in research and development. I learned a lot about LED technology and also light and health on conferences. I joined a large corporation there. But at the same time, I also went to Montreal to my first Allen conference, Artificial Light at Night. That's the place where researchers gather and exchange their research on how light actually has also harmful impact on society or ecology. And on that conference, we went to an excursion in Quebec, in Montreal, in Canada, actually. And then the school bus that we used to go to that mountain on that day, it broke down, and that gave me the unique opportunity to walk under a very dark sky with top level researchers about light pollution for 2 hours. And that was such a strong experience that afterwards, when I turned back to Germany, somehow I wasn't able to continue doing lighting design as I did it before. I had so much more interest in ecology, but also so much more interest in digital entrepreneurship, because I had been in the realm of MIT entrepreneurship people there, and there was so much things that I wanted to try out. So after that, I visited some social entrepreneurship activities here, and then I founded Visit Dark Skies. So to conclude, to come back to the question, lighting design, of course, is the basic for the business, in a way that it's an expert product. It really has, there's some science behind it. Um, there's also some knowledge about, of course, um, environmental friendly lighting that I bring in when I go into contact with hosts. And I think that's an added value. That is not, I'm not telling so much about it on the homepage, because the homepage is more customer oriented, but in the B2C, the actual business, I work a lot behind the scenes, let's say, for the dark sky
Hmm.
movement.
Hmm. What's interesting about that is that you're talking. What I think you're pointing to is what a lot of people don't know, is that while there is sky glow and light pollution, one of the major reasons you can't see the stars well is if the light's very close to you or bright. It's not just the sky glow, but if you're at a lake in a remote area and the cottage or the dock lights are on, and you're trying to lie on the dock and look at the stars, that light pollution, that local light pollution, is the number one thing that's stopping you from seeing the stars. First, you got to get rid of that stuff that's actually directly the lumens are going into your eyes, and turn as much of it off as you can. And
True.
so as a lighting designer, you're helping them do that, but then maintain safety lighting, or what you're giving them different ways to get rid of the bugs, like by not having that bright white light on the dock, that's attracting all the mosquitoes actually, or whatever you're talking. You're teaching them how to provide these experiences fully in the best way they can and where they are. Is that correct?
Yeah, I also have a cooperation approach. So I work in cooperation with manufacturers of outdoor furniture, for example, and also outdoor lighting, or in the future outdoor lighting. It's not that well established so far, but for example, 2 weeks ago, a client from Austria asked me, okay, now how can you provide me the furniture, and can you provide me those red lights that can point towards this point? So um, I'm not trying to deliver this all myself, because I want to stay rather a small enterprise, cooperating with professional partners. And that's maybe yeah, um, that's helping customers as well, because they
Etta,
do not know the
sorry.
product.
Yeah, Etta, the on the website is, I mean, you're talking about dark sky parks, mountains, deserts, out on the water. Um, have you had any experience? Have you been asked to look at more, or should we call them, sort of semi-urban spaces around the edge of a city, for example, where the urban population, who are already starved of nature, can get out. Do we know what the obviously there's going to be restrictions there because there's dark and there's dark, but is there something that you're finding that we can do to help with that urban condition?
I'm not so much involved there. I think in Berlin there's a small initiative to create such an urban dark sky um, park. I've also not dared to offer guided stargazing sessions here in Berlin, because the whole wow effect um, relies on seeing a lot of stars, and yeah, of course it would be so much easier for me to offer this. So no real answer to to this question, I think.
No. I think that is an answer. I think that because there's a purity to what you're doing. And what you're reminding me of is that the last time I did a holiday in the States, we went to the lightning field in the southwest corner of New Mexico. And if you want to go there, first of all, you have to book months in advance. They'll only take 6 people, and you have to stay overnight in order that you can see a field full of stainless steel poles that might or might not get struck by lightning. So it's a real commitment.
Oh,
And,
sure.
and and the fact that it was like 100 miles to get there from where we were, and it's busy all the time. And
Mm,
Michael, there's the commercial quality of that,
mm,
but the spiritual journey, the soul travel, if you like, of actually being there and experiencing it, is vitally important. And perhaps maybe my question to you was the one that says, if you want to compromise on this, you can sort of go onto the edge of a town and it won't be too bad.
No, no.
But actually, it
Actually,
will be
no
bad.
need
It
to
will be.
compromise. No need to compromise because there's so many great dark sky locations, and I also want to yeah, stress out the difference. And yeah, mm, no I have experienced such great dark sky experiences that I cannot, I cannot point people to half of it.
hmm
Just what uh, I don't want to do it. Um, but what's important to me is that I chose to work with hosts because I want to help also to decentralize tourism efforts and not to create a new problem, for example, by being a travel operator that brings a lot of light, a lot of tourists to new dark sky areas, and then kind of, being in conflict with 20 years of work there to
hmm
reduce lights also, right? I think there's something that we need to keep in mind, that every tourism produces light as well, um, and that there should be a close contact to people working in this field
hmm
as well.
Okay.
So, but yeah, I mean, I think, for example, in London, there have been interesting approaches to make people more aware of the night sky with urban stargazing sessions. And
Yes.
I don't know if you didn't have them in the podcast, maybe that's also uh,
Well, I think the moon
yeah,
is
a nice
accessible.
session.
The moon is accessible as well.
Yes.
So the moon is fascinating too. Actually, if you just get into the rhythm of the moon, the fact that it changes in the sky and where it moves across the sky, and the moon is fascinating actually, really too. And you mentioned clouds. If you get on the right kind of a cloudy day and lie down and look at the clouds can also be very awe-inspiring when you look at them in a certain way on a certain kind of day. I don't know. I know you mentioned that earlier as part of the business model. Um, let me let me ask you about this darkness adaptation piece of the human eye, John. Do you ready? Can we go into this a little bit? So you're saying that it takes a certain amount of time before the eye fully adapts to a dark sky. So how long, like, is the minimum, like, just say minimum average person, how long does it take them to get into dark sky mode?
Yeah, it's a process. I think the first adaptation starts quite quickly with pupil widening, etc. And then there's after 10 minutes, there's already something done. But I think people agree that's between 20 and 30 minutes
Wow.
you
Yeah,
reach your the state.
it's the slowest reveal you can ever possibly
Yeah,
imagine.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
really slow tourism, right? You need to, that it's not because yeah, it's integrated in your body. You cannot fix it. You cannot do it quicker, right?
Does
It's
that does
There's
that
also
integrated.
co- does that correspond with the psychedelic experience portion of it? Like, is there something to do with the eye that when it gets to that position, that perhaps it prepares the mind to receive these sublime messages from the universe? Is there something? Do they know anything about that?
So there's this peripheral view that is easier to gain if you're darkness adapted, yeah. And so that's also a relaxing technique. Actually, people use it to relax. So maybe that has to do a little bit
yeah,
And
I mean,
with.
Michael, it alters your breathing. It changes the way that you take oxygen into your body. It slows your physical systems down.
sure.
No, we were talking with Russell Foster the other week. No doubt, Russell will give us
Mm,
the chapter and verse on what particular gland is affected by
mm,
what particular lighting
yeah,
effect. But
sure.
it is just that thing that if it's a meditative process,
Mm,
and you don't really need the mushrooms,
yeah.
really.
Well, hey, look, I've heard people having psychedelic experiences with Kundalini yoga and stuff like that, and praying the rosary. Where they've talked about these kinds of experiences, and so this is a way that, if you can't do Kundalini yoga or you don't want to say 100 Hail Marys or 5,000 Hail Marys, whatever it is, you can gain one of these dark sky experiences. It's actually pretty easy to do if you just lie there and look up. Like, it's a way to do it that is
Hey,
not, I find like meditation and these types of things can be a little bit difficult, can sound a little bit difficult to people. And this is one way where you can connect to that kind of transcendental world without a lot of effort or confusion. Is that fair?
definitely.
Huh.
Yeah.
So,
I would agree. I mean, there's this there is this transcendental aspect in it.
sure.
Yeah, thinking about your existence, being connected to life and to death as well. To the right, if you do guided stargazing, you're at the same time you're very with you and your personal experience. That's important to me. But at the same time, you're exposed to this eternity and to these large time spans, and that
Yeah,
is an
Mm,
interesting
yeah.
connection, right? On the one hand, you're not you suddenly realize you're a very tiny person
mm,
in the universe, and on the other hand, you are so detached from your daily life that maybe you take yourself very serious and think about your life and maybe change it
mm,
afterwards, right?
mm,
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's the thing that you said about that exercise where you just tilt your head so that you lose the horizon.
whew.
So all you see is the stars, and that turns you into an astronaut because now you've got no visual connection with the world at all, and you realize that you're stuck onto this big rock which is spinning at vast speed
Yeah,
through the heavens, and
sure.
you're just looking out and you go, I am Spock, I am Kirk,
Sure.
you know I
Yeah.
I'm out there and I'm out there with the guys.
Yeah, sure.
And that's so special because we live
Hmm.
humdrum lives, don't we? Let's face it, we live
Sure.
humdrum urban lives, and we do not often open those doors of perception,
Yeah, sure.
Michael.
Yeah, for sure. I can't wait to integrate the neck back into my stargazing practice, actually, Etta. I can't wait. So, listen, I really think, I think we covered everything on this one. In terms of like from the spiritual reason why the dark sky movement is gaining to steam and to all the way in how someone's making money in it. Etta, do you have any final thoughts right now other than go to visit darkskies.com, which is her website? Other than that, do you have any final thoughts for the audience?
Um, maybe it's interesting to plan your trip a little bit in advance. Have a look at the light pollution map. Be inspired where you can go. Also on the website, there's a lot of I've covered all the star parks website in Europe, and of course there's so many more in the States and UK as well. So these websites are pretty professional now. So you can plan your trip a little bit in advance, choose a night accommodation, and then of course make sure you're comfortable. Dress when you do stargazing lying on the floor. You need to dress in a comfortable manner, maybe warmer or
Mm-hmm.
one season later than you are. So in summer you should dress like in autumn, and in autumn you should dress like in wintertime
Mm-hmm.
because it gets really cold. And then it's not so funny if you want to go away from the experience, right? You want to actually stay forever there,
Yeah,
or
for
stay
sure.
a few hours
Sure.
and maybe connect with your peers. And you can do it alone. It's very nice alone, but it's also a very nice group experience or couple experience because it connects you in a new way.
So go to visit darkskies.com. We've made it to the end here with Etta Dannemann. I hope I got it right. Her LinkedIn, she's got her LinkedIn, she's got her Twitter, and her website is visitdarkskies.com, of course. Before you visit darkskies.com, you're going to visit restoringdarkness.com and check out the new merch. That's right. Restoringdarkness.com. Merch, t-shirts, hoodies. That's right, hats for all you darkness lovers. You can grab some. You can grab some of our merch and spread the word. Thanks for listening. Bye for now.
Look no further for dark sky friendly products than Evluma. Since its first product launch, Evluma has carried one or more International Dark Sky Association certified models. If your customer cares about light pollution, suggest the OmniMax with shielding or the AreaMax with full cutoff to reduce uplight and glare. Evluma, illuminating the pursuit of darkness.